Thank you for being here. My name is John C. Kuhnauer, United States District Judge. As you have already heard, it is the court's goal in every jury trial to find jurors who will decide the case before them without prejudice or bias, because under our Constitution, everyone deserves a fair trial. So today I'd like to talk to you about what exactly bias is and why we should all keep improper biases out of the courtroom. Biases are prejudices in favor or against a thing, person, or group compared with another. Basically, bias equals prejudging in a positive way or a negative way. It's been proven that most biases happen at an unconscious level. In fact, researchers have found that unconscious bias is a part of how we all think and process information. It's important as jurors to be aware that unconscious bias exists. Once you understand what it is, we'll explore what you can do to address the effects of unconscious bias while serving on a jury, so that you can be sure you are making objective decisions and treating everyone fairly.
Biased beliefs and attitudes can be both positive and negative. You may have a deep-seated belief that basketball is a better sport than football. You may prefer strawberry to raspberry jam. These are conscious biases that are not inherently negative. However, our conscious biases can also lead to intentional and harmful discrimination. For example, consciously deciding a person is not entitled to equal rights based on their race, sex, age, nationality, or religion is a clear example of intentional, deliberate, and harmful discrimination. Today, though, I want to talk to you about unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is different, and it's something we all have, simply because we're human. It's the set of automatic preferences deep in our brains that instantaneously influence our decisions and how we perceive people and situations without our conscious awareness. Unconscious biases have evolved to help us make quick, efficient judgments and decisions with minimal mental effort. Because these unconscious biases are automatic, we use them to make judgments and decisions without even realizing that's what we're doing. But if and when we stop to consciously think about it, we might decide our initial hasty judgments don't actually fit with the information we are being presented with and with what we really know to be fair. Let's run through a few quick examples of unconscious bias to experience it firsthand. Remember, we're looking for instantaneous and instinctive decision-making that is influenced by deep-seated stereotypes and attitudes in our brains. Earlier in this video, we all saw the judge. Truth is, each of us made instantaneous decisions or prejudgments about what type of person he is, even though we don't know him or have any additional information about him. Perhaps you instinctively felt that he was smart, impartial, patient, open-minded, or in charge. Or you may have concluded that he was all-powerful, tough, or scary. And when you first view this biker, you may instinctively feel he is either an adventurous free spirit or maybe a rebel who's tough, abrasive, or even dangerous. Through unconscious bias, our minds make quick decisions we are not aware of so that we can feel comfortable, safe, and confident. The fact is, we cannot process all the information we receive. So without knowing it, our minds create mental shortcuts and use our past experiences to help us make quick and efficient decisions. Take a look at this list of colors. Try and name the colors as quickly as possible while ignoring the words. Now, do the same thing with this list. Name the colors, not the words. While it may take a little longer to identify the colors in the second list because we aren't relying on color-coded shortcuts, taking the extra time to take in and process more information is worth it, because more data helps us make more accurate decisions. Considering all the information instead of making a decision based on the information that comes to mind most quickly can help us avoid relying only on our preconceptions.
The shortcuts our minds rely on can be really helpful in our day-to-day lives because they allow us to make good and efficient decisions based on past experience. But some of the shortcuts we use, the ones that are driven by unconscious bias, can have really negative consequences, causing us to unknowingly make unfair distinctions among individuals when everyone should be judged fairly. For example, although many people in the U.S. believe it's wrong to judge people based on stereotypes, based on things like age, race, or gender, studies have shown that we most often react unconsciously to these differences to make decisions in our day-to-day lives. And yet we are not always aware when it's happening. Understanding that this can happen is an important first step in preventing it from tainting your decision-making process during a trial. For example, in one study, science faculty at research institutions looking to hire a science laboratory manager reviewed the same resume with some copies randomly assigned a man's name and others a woman's name. It turns out that male and female evaluators were more likely to conclude that the male candidate was more competent and more worthy of being hired than the female candidate, even though the resumes were exactly the same. The assumptions underlying these results, that men as a group are better at science, can lead to flawed assessments of individuals. In this example, unconscious bias influenced what the resume evaluators did without them even realizing it. Understanding this kind of unconscious bias can happen is an important first step in preventing similar kinds of unconscious bias from impacting your decision-making during trial. When you are aware individually and as a group about the existence of unconscious bias, you can evaluate when and whether it is impacting your decision-making. You can also remember that unconscious bias acts as a sort of blinder. If you make decisions based on unconscious bias, you are unaware or blind to the stereotypes and attitudes that are actually guiding your decisions. Awareness helps us get rid of the blinders. When you are aware that pretty much everyone has unconscious bias, stereotypes, and attitudes, you can look for those biases and have a better chance of preventing unconscious bias from affecting your decisions and judgments as a juror. In fact, jurors have told us that once they were made aware of unconscious bias, they were able to check in with themselves during the trial and evaluate their decision-making process. Would they come to the same conclusion if the person on trial or the witness were someone of a different age or race or gender? This kind of conscious evaluation of our decision-making can help us avoid mistakes based on unconscious bias. Only after evaluation did the jurors feel confident they were judging the person on trial, the witness, or the lawyer fairly. The fact is, most of us don't want to judge others unfairly or be guided by unconscious bias when making decisions. But simply having good intentions does not work. Neither does ignoring things like age, race, or gender, because unconscious bias really does happen without us realizing it. What studies have shown does work is to first know that unconscious bias exists and occurs for all of us. Second, carefully examine our decisions and judgments as jurors. And third, question our decisions by asking whether they would be different if the witness, lawyer, or person on trial were of a different race, age, or gender. We can help prevent unconscious bias from affecting our judgments by taking the time to examine what's influencing our decisions. Making the effort can help us feel more confident that we're being careful and reaching appropriate conclusions. So don't hesitate to ask yourself about unconscious bias. And at the end of the trial, during your deliberations, If you think unconscious bias has shaped your evaluation, I encourage you to think about the evidence again with this video in mind and to discuss it with your fellow jurors.
The fact is, honest, intelligent, really good people are impacted by unconscious bias every day. The more aware of it we are, the better. Remember, awareness that each of us have unconscious biases can actually help us all become more conscious about the fairness of the decisions we make. Thank you for taking the time to consider this issue. You're about to become part of the most important tradition in our justice system, the right to a trial by jury. Thank you for your service and your effort to ensure everyone receives a fair trial.